Companies are built off profitability. The investments you make are designed to support the products or services that you sell. But let's be honest for a moment. You like buying the things that are core to your business because that's what you care about. The secondary expenses that occur, well, those are less fun. Whether you're dealing in electronics, retail, mortgages, or even selling hamburgers, inevitably there are expenses that arise that don't support your product. So how do you cut down on those expenses? And how can all that data gathered from shipping and receiving actually improve your profit margins?
What's not core to you is core to us. What I mean by core to your business is at Harley Davidson, they make motorcycles, right? So what do they source and buy? Steel, bolts, oil, leather. But what they also need to operate their business is they need marketing. They need packaging. They need stores to sell their motorcycles in, right? Their retail operation. They need to ship things. It's everything else.
Craig Garno is the CTO at LogicSource, and he's helping companies such as Lululemon, Big Lots, and Tupperware cut down and streamline their spending. And on this episode of IT Visionaries, Craig explains why companies that fail to focus on indirect services will struggle to scale the business, while also paying more for their fair market value. Plus, Craig dives into how LogicSource is helping these businesses trim the fat on those investments and the role that data management plays in its efforts. Enjoy this episode.
IT Visionaries is created by the team at mission.org and brought to you by Salesforce Platform, the #1 cloud platform for digital transformation of every experience. Innovate fast, empower every employee, and scale with confidence from anywhere, with a customer at the center of everything you do. Learn more at salesforce.com/platform.
Welcome everyone to another episode of IT Visionaries, and today we have Craig Garno. Craig is the CTO of LogicSource. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Great. Now, we do this with all of our guests, so right out the gate, please tell our audience what is LogicSource and what does it do?
Sure, Albert. LogicSource is a company that we founded in 2009. Okay, and what we do for a living and what we provide for our clients is we're a sourcing and procurement services and technology provider. What does that mean? So the space we operate in is what's called indirect procurement. So we help companies buy indirect goods and services better, manage services with people, process, and also with technology. Indirect categories in our space: packaging, facilities, marketing, distribution, and logistics. Everything that doesn't touch the product or the service that the core business is selling to their clients, right? So it's everything else they buy.
You mentioned something there that I didn't even really think about. Indirect sourcing. You said specifically that LogicSource specifically focuses on indirect sourcing. So this is not like an RFP tool like an Ariba or something like that. I've had to deal with those. That thing sucks. But you're talking about specific, the way you described indirect sourcing is when I need to buy something that is not core to my business. Can you please explain a little bit more about that? Because you kind of hinted at a couple things, but I always thought that everything I did was core to my business. You know what I mean? Like, I would just assume every role that bought services or technology was buying something core to their business. Explain a little bit more like how something could be not core, yet you would still need to buy it.
I'll quote our CEO and founder, David Tunino. One of the things that David says is, what's not core to you is core to us. What I mean by core to your business is at Harley Davidson, they make motorcycles, right? So what do they source and buy? Steel, bolts, oil, leather, so on and so forth, right? But what they also need to operate their business is they need marketing. They need packaging. They need stores to sell their motorcycles in, right? Their retail operation. They need to ship things, right? So it's everything else, right? They need marketing. Those things those aren't the direct side of sourcing and procurement, right? Direct goods, steel, oil, leather, et cetera, right? LogicSource focuses on everything else. And the idea here, where we got started with the business is it really was a set of categories that just aren't focused on by companies. They're focused on, Burger King wants to buy ground chuck as good as they can, right? But are they really thinking about delighting in their store. Well, I'm sure they are. Well, now they are, with companies like ours helping them.
So tell us, how do customers even begin to know what they want to indirectly source? Is it you just look at I'm trying to figure out, like, you're in the boardroom one day and like, oh my gosh, we're having all these problems. How do we even get a solution for it? So I'll use a retail example, because I usually can think of retail examples kind of quickly. I'm assuming like the security systems at the retail store,
right?
Like they don't know what to buy because that's not their game,
right? So what again, often not thought of or focused on, because again of the direct side, will oftentimes through an introduction and a relationship get an opportunity with a CFO or a CEO, right? And then ultimately a CPO in their sourcing organization, and show them that, if left unattended, there's your business is potentially spending hundreds of millions or $1 billion on indirect goods and services.
Wow.
And, savings opportunities from 7 to 20+%, and, proven through what we do. So, it's really trying to make that message resonate.
How is there so much savings available, I guess, in the indirect sourcing market? Because I think I have an understanding, but I'd love for you to expand upon it. You had mentioned just a moment ago that there's between 7 and 20% savings potentially in each type of service that is indirectly sourced. What is the principal cause for this savings to exist, or like this buying inefficiency to exist? Is it simply because people don't pay attention to it, or they don't understand the category, so they don't want to vet all the vendors? I want our audience to understand the core of the problem, why does it exist, and why it needs a service like LogicSource to help solve it.
Yeah, again, they're focused on direct, right? Because that's where most of the really the resources focus. But what we find in our clients, there's a lack of data because a lot of indirect is done manually still, right? Where there's technology, it perhaps wasn't implemented completely, or it was shelved, things like that. So what you get out of that is you get, supplier fragmentation, you get rogue buying, you get, non-compliance of price, you don't get governance over your supply chain, right? Those disciplines that may be on the direct side just aren't there on the indirect side. And that's where we come into the picture.
So talk about how a software or a technology product helps to solve this, because in any business, there's inevitably something else that's indirect, right? So right. You mentioned before marketing. So marketing can both be a transactional thing. I want to buy a billboard, so that's inventory I can directly buy, or time on a television show, that's direct inventory. But it can also be service-based, where I need someone with some type of domain experience to do something for me. So there's a lot of vetting in that. Talk about how this software fill that gap to help vet all these different options from a transactional product to a service.
Well, absolutely. So if you think about our product suite, Albert, right, we start with One Market Insights, and One Market Insights is a spend analytics solution that we offer. And what that does is provide, to use the title or the brand, provide insight into a company's indirect spend data. Okay. So in that solution, we take data feeds from our client systems and also through our own systems. And we take that data, we normalize, we categorize, we classify, we enrich, et cetera, so that we can make that data tell a story, right? For our sourcing teams that help our clients, and or a business's sourcing team, should they be running their own, that sort of thing. So One Market Insights starts the work by showing really the profile of spend on the indirect side, and that's how you get started. That's where you see the opportunities, right? So, and you can compare that to industry benchmarks. Companies in this space should be spending X amount of dollars, or as a percentage of revenue, et cetera, on a category, and you can benchmark from there, and that's how our mutual value assessment process and in our solutioning. We'll use data like that to form a solution for our clients. So right out of the gate, One Market Insights is doing that for us. And then, as you roll through, steady state and things like that, once you're operating with your clients, you're going to continually take data out of these solutions and replay that again, looking for opportunity, continuously improving on the theme.
So that's one aspect of doing some market analysis, let's go back to my retail example of if I was looking for security systems in my retail stores. That data sounds like I could know what by, store revenue, what percentage of revenue is being spent on the door systems. It can probably tell me what percentage of total sales or percentage of, square footage, probably a lot of quantitative data points. What about the qualitative side? How do I know if something's good, right? Because seeing how much someone else spends is one thing. Knowing what's good to buy is another. Do you guys play a part in evaluating the qualitative results of these implementations?
Really, qualitative. I'll speak to that really from a compliance and a governance perspective. Okay, so what we'll also do with our clients is get involved in helping them create contracts out of these market exercises that we'll do. So we're going to look to make sure there's good governance, there's good just simply terms and whatnot in supplier agreements that get put together. And again, in our center of excellence, where our category expertise is, that's a way that we'll ensure that, we're getting qualitative results from a supply chain. In addition, you think about things like service level agreements, all that kind of stuff, build that into your agreements. And then, to think about that from a technology perspective, One Market Contracts is our repository for housing all of those agreements that get put in place. And that's a highly searchable contract repository solution, to help companies, understand their agreements, know about their agreements, find their agreements, find out what's in them, and, bring all that stuff to bear.
So this is a very data-driven product.
No, yeah.
I'm curious. I read a fun little thing about it, or it was about you specifically. It sounds like in 2015 you were named the CTO, but there was a little blurb in the intro that kind of surprised me.
All right.
That you were the first CTO, meaning the company did not have one previously. So how was the company building its technology? And then talk about how you transformed that, because it seems odd that a technology company would not have a CTO prior to you joining.
Well, if you think about the 11 and a half or so years that we've been at it, our focus really on services, right? Services with technology. Okay. So, coming to LogicSource, I've always been a product development guy. I love building software. I love building applications, web applications. It's what excites me to this day. And so, at LogicSource as a services organization, we bought or merged into the organization at inception, procurement technology that myself and a team of people had architected in a prior life. So we merged that business into this business. And, what David wanted to do, David Panino, what he wanted to do is he wanted to start a services business with a technology platform. He wanted an operating platform. So I had known David in a previous life, and he knew what I was doing, and he brought our technology into the firm. And over time, again, as a services firm, we continued to invest in that technology, but services are the core of the business. Now, bring that forward. Other applications that we bring, that started to merge in the business, One Market portfolio, One Market insights, so on and so forth. And and you put on top of that security, right? I'm not sure if we'll talk much about security here. I'm sure we will, but you start to look at the things that are going on to operate, any business, especially one where technology and data are really driving the decisions and, the value that we're providing for clients. And, you come up with a set of requirements for a CTO role for sure. And, look, it's, as rapidly evolving, and you've got to be cross-disciplined. One day you're product, the next day you're security, the next day you're IT, the next day you're in front of a client. So, it needs an executive role. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear this evolution, because, you already are building, it sounds like you're building a product. It gets merged into LogicSource. One of the things that CTOs, product officers, different people inside the tech stack of a tech company, they always talk about is you run into customers that introduce use cases that you did not think about before. right?
Yeah, but that's that's the best use case. It's the best part, Albert.
That's the best part. Yeah. Talk about some of the first things that you were surprised about that, we were like, wow, we have a challenge in front of us. Because, I think in a lot of people's minds that it's like an easy transition, that you can be merged into a company, that you're just continue building your product and there's no problems. But inevitably the company that, you merge into, they always bring you a use case that you just weren't planning for.
Yeah, look, that's okay. That's, I'll tell you, there's nothing better, Albert, than working with a client that wants to partner on a solution around something you haven't done. That's when you have a relationship like we have with some of our clients where, they've got a core problem, right? They've got antiquated technology for stores to buy facilities, supplies, right? And they want to solve that problem. And you've got a relationship where they trust you and they've got a set of use cases. And then you're probably going to be talking about features you don't have already, right?
Right.
There's nothing like partnering with a client around a set of use cases. And you want to make both of your businesses better together, I should say, right? But you want to make both of your businesses better together. So that's the first thing is partnering with clients is just exciting. And, prior to CTO role and product evolution and technology as a priority, as a business strategy for LogicSource, you're focused internally, right? You're focused on, okay, technology for our team to operate and things like that. But, here you're with clients, you're designing products and solutions that deliver value to your clients. So, that's again, super exciting. The idea around use cases you haven't run into, simply you've got to design products that can be flexible such that you can turn features on and off, yet not make your product too heavy. And that's really a big part of it is trying to make software that's flexible, yet doesn't get too heavy. So, that's certainly been a trick for us. And again, as a services oriented firm, we're into the use case we don't know about. We like that.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier as well on this concept of security that you have. And you also said that, the way you have all this data on what people are spending is you actually have access to their contracts. How did you convince people to, because I feel like that's one of those things that people don't like to give up, right? They don't want to give up seats to their sales force. Don't look at who I'm talking to. And the other thing they don't want you to, don't look at what I'm spending my money on. So in order to collect that data, you need to obviously know what every company is spending by service, by category, by unit, whatever the number is. You got to have it in order for you to create a benchmark to begin with. How did you convince people, or what was the process like to get people to trust you to say, hey, you can have my contracts. I want you to have this because I need to know something else.
Well, look, anytime you start with a new client relationship where they're going to be sharing data, right? Anytime you start with that, the first thing I'm probably going to do is meet with their security team, right? Yeah. So you meet with a group of people who send you 100, 200 questions that you have to answer, right? Security RFI.
Oh, I hated those.
And you need to be able to back that up. So you're assessed, and there's times you're audited, and you've got to have the things in place, whether it be a leader in the security area, and we have a leader in the security area for our business. You've got to have a framework. You've got to have some things that you're compliant to. In our business, it's SOC, right? Service Organization Compliance, and where you've been audited around the controls that you have in place. And, and then on a day-to-day, basis, you got to practice it. So it's putting the controls in place, proving to your clients that you can do that and take care of their data, and then backing it up with audit, Other things we do, we're through third parties doing pen tests, vulnerability assessments on our networks, on our applications, things like that. So, it's actually a thing unto itself, making sure that, you're taking care of your clients, their data, and, keeping everything whole.
I totally get it. You were bringing up some dreaded memories of getting the security requirement documents. I once lost a deal, by the way. I thought I should share this. I once lost a deal. It was for a media company. They made movies, and they wanted uncapped liability, or uncapped uncapped something, liability, I want to say, because we were a social platform, they're like, if you release any of our like trailers, if you release any information that could possibly lead to someone knowing the ending of the movie, we want uncapped liability. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, if you ruin my weekend can be $100 million.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's like, I can't be responsible for that.
Well, and again, at LogicSource, you're dealing with some of the biggest brands in the country, and maybe even global brands. They're writing this stuff. Our clients are writing these, protections into their agreements. So it's, look, 10 years ago, no. Today, it's as important as any of the silos that the technology business serves. It really is.
So talk about the innovation in your space. What are you excited to work on? What are you hopeful of working on? Because I joked with one of my friends who works at Carfax, and I was saying, oh, it's just a database of car data. Like, what could you possibly do with it? And they're like, oh, you can't imagine. Like, they were talking about all these different things and I was kind of taken aback. For yourselves, you have the buying data of many, many different companies. What do you envision how the product could potentially change over the next, let's say, year, 5 years? I don't know what your timeline or horizon is, but how do you think, what other services are going to come from all this data that you have collected?
Well, look, first of all, we don't have 5 or 10 years to do it. So, we're pretty resourceful around this kind of stuff, but really, the focus has to be on data. So with our own technology across the continuum of source to pay, again, insights, contracts, procure to pay, portfolio, which I didn't really talk about, spend, project, sourcing, performance management, we're able to collect a lot of data, right? And that data today, gets anonymized, aggregated, summarized, normalized, et cetera, similar to the way I talked about insights. But, that data gets, is really getting, collected into a large repository that will then let us take that data, turn it around, and turn it into insights, turn it into market intelligence, turn it into product, things like that. So, on top of just managing core products that transact and drive value for our clients, it's really the data that we're getting out of those that, that really represents, the future where we're taking technology in our business. Right. So
how about like any personal wishes that you have for yourself that, you hope to unlock? What would be an ideal scenario, or what would be a dream state for the procure to pay industry of something? If you could create it, you'd want to create it.
That's a great question. I guess at the end of the day, what I want to be known for is having to build a suite of products that a lot of customers use. And by the way, a lot of customers like using them. For me, when I have a software client that's 10 plus years that predates this business, for me, actually, I'm going to say that's kind of the dream, right? The fact that you were able to do something that people like to use and solves a business problem, gives them value, gives them a return, and that's why I wake up every day about thinking about product. What can we do differently? And I think the key to it, from what we've seen, is keeping the products pretty straightforward, not overly complicated. Don't over-engineer the stuff, and then collect the data so you can then mix that back into the the solution or intelligence that you're able to use in your business for your clients or to your clients.
Yeah. Well, as a total noob, that's what, and again, I'm not in the procure to pay space anymore, although I do have to buy things every now and then. They have no idea what they are for mission.
Yeah.
I like to think of it from a consumer side. It's like, what is my ultimate pain? My ultimate pain is me spending money on something that doesn't work. It's actually not spending the money. For me, the ultimate pain is spending money on something that doesn't work. So I feel like the future, just as my opinion, is going to be in the qualitative side. Like, I feel like that would be, because if you not only have the quantitative data where I could say, oh, wow, definitively, this is a good bucket to invest in this service line. Now the question becomes, well, how do I pick out the right one? Because this is just me. I feel like that would be super beneficial to any buyer, because when you are buying something, you don't necessarily, like you said, you should buy principal business. You don't want to get ripped off. Now, some services are pretty transactional. Like, I feel like, I don't know. Let's go back to my retail. example, like cleaning services. I feel like that's, it's kind of transactional. What's really tough is like software, or you like kind of talked about, or like marketing, right? Marketing is, we know that's not all the same. Some agencies are going to be better than others. So that qualitative piece feels like something that buyers would love to have. Anyways, those are just my 2 cents.
Well, yeah, and when you're out in the market looking for services, it's a different type of sourcing exercise, right? So when you think about sourcing goods and services, goods is, I need a rate card, I need unit prices, I've got a list of SKUs, I need prices on those things, I need a price per thousand, that sort of thing. When you're out sourcing services, it's you're shopping from, not from a quote standpoint, but more from a proposal standpoint. So you're not only going to, get the price for a proposal or the pricing for a proposal from the supply chain you're working with, but you're also going to want to know, all of the, I'll use your word, qualitative aspects of a service they're looking to provide, right? So there's rates, there's SLAs. What's the measure of success? That sort of thing.
That's a good one.
So it's a different type of sourcing exercise, A and B, buy. And, you're looking to really, you're really looking to put in a services agreement, a contract that represents all, not only the dollars, but the qualitative side of things. So, and when you do that in a firm like LogicSource, you're employing, category experts. So there are people in our business that, just buy marketing services. There are people in our business that buy, commercial print, where they, need prices per thousand, that sort of thing. So there's people who buy benefits programs. There's people who buy, legal services. It's goods versus services. They're completely different. And to that point, the technology's got to be able to, A, help source those types of things, and B, help companies buy and pay for those kinds of things. So yeah, they actually, from a procurement perspective and from a sourcing technology perspective, yeah, they're treated differently. So, and we've got it covered. Trust me.
No, I find that super fascinating. I was listening to you talk. I was thinking to myself, man, I wonder if LogicSource ever becomes like the hub for sourcing in this regard. Meaning, if let's say, I don't know, let's use your steel example. X number of customers are looking for steel. Does it ever become the hub where it can like execute a contract on behalf of its customers, which would be insane, right? Because it aggregates all the buying requests and says, hey, we actually want to buy, X times 100.
Yeah. That's the thought of having, more of I think they call that a GPO, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are the buy. And I'd say that's probably not so much where we're at, but what we want to do is we want to have the data that explains all that, that helps bring the right answer to the surface and saves the sourcing exercise, right? So if you've got enough insight and again data in your cache, you don't need to go to market. You've got a collection of contract examples, again, all anonymized and whatnot, where you can predict, you can go faster to get to that answer and get to a more accurate answer, because you're basing that on quantitative data rather than going to market every couple of years with the same sort of replay.
You are the first. I'm pretty sure you're the first. I don't know if you're the only company in this, but you're definitely the first company on IT Visionaries that's focused on indirect sourcing. I mean, right. I've not heard of this as its own category before, but it makes total sense. I mean, like you already said it, tons of companies rely on tons of services that have nothing. They don't really have to do with their business.
Every company, Albert, right? Right. Every company. So yeah, there you go.
Every company. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Every company has this problem. And so, I never thought, and this is where it's pretty fascinating. We always talk to different founders, leaders, technologists, whatever the case may be. There's always these markets of like just accumulating problems. Like there's people that are accumulating these problems, and like technology is the answer to solve these things. It's pretty fascinating what you've shared with us. But before you go, it's time for the lightning round. So the lightning round is brought to you by the Salesforce platform, the #1 cloud platform for digital transformation of every experience. Craig, this is where we ask you questions outside of work. Some of it involves work, but yes. So our audience can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. We're always curious because CTOs get pitched a lot of things. How many unread emails do you have in your inbox right now?
Oh no, that's an embarrassing question. I have a lot. We cover a lot of areas in the business and the role, and as I said at the top, and I focus on the things that are client oriented and leadership oriented. And there's a lot of stuff in there it's a humbling question.
Hey, listen, there's really only two people, right? Inbox zeros, inbox 100,000. Sound like
you know what? That's so true.
There's no one with just like 5 unread emails.
And David is my inbox is empty every day. I empty it every day. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's a great question.
So, as a technologist, what is one piece of technology that you cannot live without? And do not say your phone. So, throw your phone and computer out. So you have to.
Oh, wow.
What's a gizmo or thing that you like that you just say, hey, I have to have this with me at all times, or as much as possible?
Sorry, what can I rename my phone to be? Can I call it something else? Can I call it my communications device? What was it called on Star Trek, right? My communicator? I need my communicator?
Yeah. You got to throw your phone out. Everyone knows they're addicted to their phone. That's a given. They can't function without. We go scrambling for like we're addicts when we can't locate it for some reason.
Well, I guess, look, we've become connected to everything. So I'm going to say satellite in my car. We've got a long commute to Connecticut, so so having content on the ride is pretty important. So that's that's a must.
How many miles do you drive one way to go to work?
Truthfully, 90.
90. Wow, that's intense. Are you looking forward to autonomous vehicles?
Yes, I am. And my son actually drives a Tesla a lot, and he's just really trying to bend my arm to get a Tesla. So that gets us down the road. And he actually has a similar long commute, and he's dead. Long ride, you got to get the Tesla. Yeah. And the other thing is, we go over the Mario Cuomo Bridge there. So I swore when there's going to be a day where I have a helicopter, I just fly over it.
There you go. Listen, I've seen that. I've read about how one of my friends, he actually moved from New York to Sao Paulo, and he said Sao Paulo's actually got worse traffic than New York. And he says it's like the helicopter of the major cities. It's one of like the helicopter capitals. Like most people commute via helicopter if you can, because that's how bad traffic's on the ground. I was like, man, that's when you know you've made it, when you have a chopper taking you from building to building. We're
going to be there.
What's one thing you like to do outside of work for fun?
Oh, wow. That's great. So look, everyone at work knows I really value family. I've got 4 children, my wife, Janet, and a crazy German Shepherd we call Stella. So look, I like to spend a lot of time with my family. They're all in the 20-something range now. So, and with the pandemic, several of them still around here. So we do that. Also, for me, I like being outdoors, right? So whether it's hiking with my daughter, I run, I'm a cyclist, I'm a lifetime cyclist. So try and stay fit in the middle of all of this product development.
There you go. Now I got to ask, since you're a cyclist, what is the average what is your pace that you typically ride at? Miles per hour.
Okay, well, I'm not 20 anymore. Okay, Albert. So I've done some racing, weekend warrior stuff, right? But, I actually rode last night, and I think I was 16 and a half miles an hour on a 25-mile loop. So, not bad. I only ride
25 miles. Dang.
25. Nah, come on. That's not much.
Listen, the furthest I've ever ridden my bike is I did a 14-mile ride once, and I was like, I didn't feel very good afterward, but everyone told me your body positioning matters a lot, and you have to get your bike measured to make it so that's ergonomic. I was like, man, I don't know, 14 miles. I felt terrible. Not like my legs felt terrible, but like my body, because I think I was not in ergonomically good position, and held my body in that position for too long.
Bike fit and a strong core is important. It is.
Listen, you said strong core, but I like to keep my core soft. So, Craig, it was awesome having you on the show today for IT Visionaries. Thanks for sharing your perspective in the world of indirect sourcing. As you said, this is something every company goes through. So this is really cool hearing about how the data of the contracts here can actually help people make better decisions. It makes total sense. I wouldn't have thought that this is like even a category, but here we are.
Well, that's great, Albert. Thank you for the opportunity. It's certainly my pleasure and our business's pleasure to be here and be with you guys today. And you're a great host. You've done a great job. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Hey, listen, stay safe on the roads. I know that the drivers don't like cyclists. Not me. I avoid cyclists, but I know some, get a little aggressive. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, sir.